Ready? Let's go. Good morning, good evening, good day, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Where is everybody at today, by the way? We've got one West Coast. Good evening, good day, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Where is everybody at today, by the way? We've got one West Coast. Good evening, good day, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Uh-oh, looks like we got a little echo here. Sorry, guys, we got a little echo. Okay, Washington State, Long Beach, Belgium, Alabama, Japan, Mid-Atlantic East Coast, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, 1 a.m. in Ecuador. Thank you for joining us so late at night. Hello from Wuhan, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Minnesota, India, Sweden, Texas, Brno. I have been in Brno. Minnesota, Washington State, West Coast, yep. Bulgaria, Netherlands, Croatia, Melbourne, Maryland, Toronto. Okay, good. We got a very good representation today. Maine, another Croatia, Tasmania, Hood River, St. Louis. Looks like Fayetteville, London, Thailand, Cardiff, South Florida, Philippines. Okay, great. We got a lot of people. This is great. So maybe we'll kick it off by just going through a little bit of news here. We'll go through a little bit of news first here. I'm going to get a little bit of light so I can actually see what I'm looking at here. Okay, let's go. Let's look at some macro stuff first. Let's just get a picture of what's going on in terms of, we got Haley, Idaho, Corsica, Morocco. Great. Okay, let's take another Ecuador, Denmark. Great. Let's take a little look at what's going on as far as the macro scene. And I think we've got a pretty good article here that's going to sum things up, at least for the North American macro thing. Let's see what we got, if we can find it here. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm always bad at the going to a tab thing. Today is going to be no exception. Let me just see if I can find this. Okay. Looks like, okay, here we go. Sorry. I'm one of these million tab guys for sure. Okay, so this is a New York Times article. They ran with the headline of "Weak employment and rising prices raise the stakes for the Fed." The reason why I like to cover this kind of macro stuff is because the Fed's reaction to this could definitely have a big impact on crypto, and definitely a big impact on Cardano as a part of crypto. So the Fed right now is dealing with a September jobs forecast of 500,000. The number of jobs they got was 194,000. So they fell far short of their September jobs forecast. They're also dealing with average inflation in August, I believe, of 4.3 when they had a goal of 2%. So they're stuck in that hard place somewhere between where they want to keep unemployment as low as possible, and they want to keep inflation down around their long-term goal of 2%. But it's very difficult to have both things at the same time. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this macro stuff is relevant? Do you guys think there's a Chiang Mai, Thailand, Texas? Do you guys think the macro stuff is relevant, or do you think crypto has sufficiently delinked from those kind of macro factors? What do you guys think? James Robertson says stagflation, all I ever wanted. That's the big fear, stagflation. That's, for anybody who doesn't know, that's stagnation and inflation at the same time. That's the big worst case scenario. Raphael says relevant, crypto is coupled. Yep. Gareth says, yep, it's relevant, definitely. Nikki says fundamentals. Leroy says, no, definitely not delinked. Yep. Juliet Alpha says a little bit, but not much. Yep. OPR Doc says not with SEC and upcoming bill. Yep. We'll get to some of that for sure. IT Architect says, I think it's relevant. Markets dip, and so does crypto. Create the Imaginable says, yes, very relevant. The Fed is in trouble. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what, if you look at these articles that are commenting on these macro factors kind of coming to a head right now, I mean, the subtitle of all these is usually something like Jerome Powell in a tough spot, Fed chair in a tough spot, Federal Reserve in a very tough spot. Giovanni Welvert says, is ADA a security? I will leave that to the SEC to decide, because they're going to come to their own opinion on any crypto asset imaginable, and they are not going to care too much what we think. So I'll leave that to them. Hecom Dry says, U.S. government officials are buying crypto. That we know. We'll actually cover that. We'll actually cover that in a second, as to at least one White House administration person. What about tapering? That's the big question. When does the Fed start tapering its propping up the market through treasury asset purchases? When does that stop? Nobody knows. That's the $1 million question, $1 trillion question, really. Actually, we might as well just call it a $20 million question, like the size of the entire economy. AOS, why did BTC suddenly go up, and what causes BTC to go up? You know what? I try really hard not to comment on that. I definitely have positions, like opinions about those kinds of things, but I try very, very hard not to comment about that, because I don't want to turn this into a price channel. Lawrence says, not entirely unlinked, but the relationship is unclear. Yeah, I could agree with that. Raphael says, institutional investors will shed crypto assets before blue chip and the like. Inflation is running away regardless of employment rate. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. They will definitely shed those crypto assets. A lot of them will shed those crypto assets long before they shed their traditional assets. That's at least been the sentiment we've seen expressed. Nikki says, AOS looks like a space rapper. Thank you. Never been called a space rapper, but I kind of like that. I think that's fantastic. Dan Murphy says, happy 200th episode. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Blockjock says, SEC is slow playing, so the banks, slow playing. Where did that comment go? Oh, I think I lost it. Sorry, you guys, comments are moving fast. SEC is slow playing, so the banks can get a grip in this thing called crypto. Sorry, I haven't been throwing your comments on the screen. I'll try to hit those from now on. This is a relevant comment. Unfortunately, these clowns can legislate on stuff they don't understand. We're actually going to address that very topic, and it's actually related to who owns crypto in the current administration. We'll get to that as well. Okay. I don't know. This is the Plutus application backend. When is the Plutus application backend? For anybody who doesn't know, the blockchain can handle Plutus scripts right now, in addition to the time lock scripts, which we already had. So Alonzo added Plutus scripts. The problem is the dApps won't come until the Plutus application backend is in place. This is like the big giant piece of tooling that all the developers need so they can get their dApps on the blockchain running. I don't know. The last estimate I heard was the last one Charles gave in an AMA, and it was just kind of like a T plus blank days estimate from whenever Alonzo was going to happen at that point. I haven't heard anything lately. Obviously, Charles has taken his 2 weeks off, so I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for him to come back online with an AMA. I think that'll be one of the very first things he addresses. So we'll all be kind of waiting for that. Kevin says, I was going to ask the same thing. Sounds like it will be here in a couple of weeks. That's kind of the impression that's what I'm hoping for. I shouldn't say that's the impression I get because it's based on nothing, but I hope it's here in a couple of weeks. Chess King 29 says PAB was released today. That's fantastic. If it actually was, that's great. DC Spark Blockchalk says, so here's Chess King's comment, because if true, this is very relevant, obviously. I hope that's true. Blockchalk says DC Spark isn't waiting for Plutus to be finished. True. I think I would say Plutus is finished, but the tooling for developers to use Plutus maybe isn't finished. Raphael says Plutus application backend update released today. Okay, great. So we've got 2 people confirming it. Obviously, that's a good sign. So maybe it was released today. The reason why I didn't expect it today was because it's kind of you don't often see dev teams releasing stuff on Fridays because then everybody tries to use it over the weekend and nobody's working to back it up. But maybe they're just planning on working and they didn't want to wait till Monday. So I did not expect that they would release something so big on a Friday though. Do you think Charles has influence on the SEC? No. I don't think the SEC, man, they don't care. They don't seem to care what Robinhood thinks. They don't care what gigantic institutions on Wall Street think. They definitely pay attention to what those institutions are saying about them, but influence, not so much. I think they're going to do whatever they want to do. When AOS token on Cardano blockchain? Nope, no plans for that. No plans for that right now. Not the major update we're waiting for. What's the major update we're waiting for? Lummis does. Yeah, I mean, Lummis. So Kevin's talking about Senator Lummis of Wyoming. If you watch the Senate Financial Services Subcommittee meetings, they get to bring people like Gensler and Yellen and Jerome Powell, the heads of the SEC, Treasury, and the Federal Reserve, respectively, in front of their subcommittee and ask them any questions they want. And those regulators have to be super cool with those senators because the senators have to confirm them when those guys are up for reappointment. So they try to be very cool. And Senator Lummis definitely put it on Janet Yellen last time Yellen was in there, not over a crypto issue, but over the $600 reporting threshold. So Lummis is not afraid to go pretty hard on these heads of these agencies. That's for sure. This is a good point. SEC definitely doesn't care what libertarians think. Obviously, I would have a hard time arguing against that. I think that's probably true. Yeah, Lummis owns crypto. Yep, she does. Yep, here we go. Nenad Kalovich says, saw Plutus application backend update on GitHub yesterday. Is that it? Can the dev start implementation? Sounds like it. Sounds like we got confirmation. Actually, I'm super happy to hear it personally because I didn't expect it on Friday, and I guess I wasn't paying enough attention today. So, Charles did speak at a WEF event, didn't he? Makes the spy and me wonder what his relationship is with them. I don't know. I'd have to double check on that one. We're going to cover this next one, the Biden executive order regarding cryptocurrency oversight. We're going to cover that in just a second. I actually did make a prepared sort of video just on this, and I was going to play it during the live broadcast, but I decided that's lame, so we'll just cover it. We'll just cover it live. But I thought it's important enough. I wanted to be a little bit more precise than we would probably be doing it live, but we're just going to talk about it live. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. And it's right now what they're saying is they're considering creating a regulatory approach across the government via executive order. And we'll talk about why they might be doing that. Okay, so you've done a few of these live streams now, iOS. Which do you like better, the live stream or your typical video production? They're different. I enjoy interacting with everybody on these live streams. That's super fun. But I feel like when there's really important information, I can probably do a better job presenting it more concisely in a pre-recorded video. So it's kind of like this is very fun for me, but at the same time, I can probably convey complicated information more concisely in a pre-recorded video. Should I move to St. Lucia now, or can I wait? I don't know. It depends on your personal goals. We've talked about Ergo quite a bit. We've talked about Ergo quite a bit on this channel. I think it's great. I think interoperability is basically the only way forward, and that goes far beyond Ergo probably. But I think interoperability, whether you like it or not, that's probably the only way forward. Thank you, Nathan. That's very nice of you to say that. I appreciate it. Same for you, Miles. Very much appreciate that. This is kind of how I feel. Biden is going to make an executive order that his Twitter handle is Grandpa Joe Crypto. I mean, if they accidentally let Biden in front of his Twitter account on the wrong day, something like this could actually happen, which worries me. I definitely have a position on this, like a position in the sense that I have an opinion on this, but I don't like to express it on this channel because I don't feel like I don't feel confident in the predictive ability of my opinions on this enough that I would want to say it to everybody, because I think people might they might act on it, and I don't want to be in the position of giving people advice on what they should invest in and that kind of stuff. Thoughts or hope regarding Cardano meetings in Africa, heads of state? Oh man, this is such a big one. So I think there are really big possibilities, but I also keep in mind that Charles has always told us that nation state deals take 5 to 7 years, or whatever that year timeline figure he always quotes is. So we don't really know. I mean, we know he's been to a lot of these countries before. We know that he said that Rwanda is a lot easier to deal with than, say, Nigeria, but he's also meeting with gigantic nation states that aren't even sub-Saharan necessarily, like Egypt in this trip. And I do think it's kind of interesting. There's some interesting coincidences, right? And this is all speculative. This is just wild, baseless speculation, but I think it's interesting that we've got a stable coin now named JED, right, based on this Egyptian hieroglyph, and he's going to visit Egypt. And we've seen these little rumors about the possibility of not so much the nation states being amenable to this idea, but of Cardano possibly trying to plant the seeds, do a little inception about a Pan-African currency. And hey, if you're going to run a Pan-African currency, why not let it be named after an ancient Egyptian, a character, a hieroglyph from an ancient Egyptian civilization that almost everybody in the world knows about. Everybody in the world that has access to, education about antiquity would know about. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Who knows? I try not to get too excited about the nation state stuff because it's such a long cycle to make those things happen. But I think there's so much possibility there. I can't wait to see what comes out of it. Speaking of JED, what are your thoughts on JED? Will it become universal for Cardano? I don't know. It could be that somebody invents. I think the architecture of JED with those stable three different coins, that tri-coin system, is beautiful. I think it's a beautiful architecture. Like it's a very elegant way to maintain stability of price. So who knows though? Maybe someone will invent something cooler and it'll become more widespread. You never know. But I think the architecture of JED, that tri-coin system, is very elegant. So I'm impressed. Let's see. Kevin saying ops redundant. Are you saying there's redundant opportunities in Africa? Is that what you're talking about? Goldman Sachs has approved Volt ETF for institutional and high net worth investors. Yeah, I mean the crypto ETF thing. I don't know anything about this Volt ETF, but if it's a general crypto ETF that Goldman is kind of pushing, it doesn't surprise me that the first ETF we actually see is not one pushed by somebody who's more native to crypto, like the Winklevi, even to the extent you think that they're native to crypto. I would call them close enough, but it would be no surprise to me if Goldman Sachs is far ahead in that race beyond anybody who's like more crypto native. Um, I don't know. This one could be a very long timeline. When will DAOs replace corporations? I've talked about this quite a bit on this channel. I think DAOs, if executed correctly, could outcompete corporations hands down. Easily, they could outcompete corporations if they were implemented correctly. I don't know. It could be a long timeline. I mean, I don't know if it's like, I don't know if the timeline is like Super Mario Brothers to Call of Duty Black Ops, or if it's like Pong to Super Mario Brothers. I don't know. I don't know. Or if it's Pong to Black Ops. I don't know. I don't know what that timeline is. I hope it's quick though. I would love it. It'd be such a big change. I mean, it would be one of these like society cracking changes. Like society, some of the seams of Western society would separate a little bit if we decide to organize our human labor in another way, like with a DAO, and we completely cast aside corporate entities. I mean, some of the seams of society will come apart a little bit, but I'm down. I'm there already. I'm ready to go. Okay, let's see. Christopher, when nation states use Cardano for identity, does it have any effect on the supply of ADA? I would think not. How would it affect value of Cardano for an investor? So we talked about this a little bit. I think we talked about it in the live stream after the Cardano Summit. Maybe not, but my understanding of Metallic Prism is the way that works, the way Metallic Prism works is it kind of operates on its own little layer, right? But when people are signing things, like when those teachers in the Ethiopian Ministry of Education program, when those teachers are adding a kid's grades, they have to sign. They have to sign for the addition of those grades. And my understanding is that's going to happen on the base layer. And like when those students sign for some prospective employer to look at their academic records, when they add their cryptographic signature to allow that access, my understanding is that's going to happen on the base layer of Cardano as well. So somebody who knows more about Atala Prism can maybe correct me, but that's my understanding. And I would assume Atala Prism and other use cases would work similarly. Goldman are idiots. It's funny to see banks stumbling with crypto. Yeah, I've definitely known a lot of people who worked or did work at Goldman. I won't comment because they're don't want to besmirch anybody I know. So I won't comment on that. But what other projects you get excited about? I just focus on Cardano. On this channel, we just talk about Cardano, so I don't really talk about other projects. Okay, JED based on basket of Japan, US, and Pan-African Israeli basket makes sense. It could be a basket of currencies. Which currencies out of those you choose, yeah, there are political considerations there. So, certain coins people would be okay with, and certain coins create political issues. So, but yeah, basket of currencies makes sense. Okay, Dorian, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope so. I hope some form of digital identity makes up a new social media layer that runs on the blockchain where you control your own content. Obviously, I would love that. Does your family invest in crypto? No comment. No comment. Do you have a stake pool? If not, why? People ask me about this occasionally. No, there's no Army of Spies stake pool currently. it's something. There are a lot of different factors in the stake pool thing, and maybe we'll talk more about that. Maybe we'll talk more about that in the future, but we won't go too deep on that right now. Okay, Kevin says, so I think Beef Chain with AGI approval related to a scarcity. I believe Beef Chain has government approval because its token is not tradable. Yeah, so the calculation about whether something is a security or not has to do with the factors in the Howey test. And it not being tradable means there's no secondary market, and that could help mitigate some of that expectation of a return prong of the Howey test. So that makes sense. Okay, we get a little update here. Aries Manuel Idaño says PAB is not totally complete, but a big step in the right direction. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I feel like I would have maybe seen more. Like I said, I wasn't paying close enough attention today because it was a Friday, and I wasn't expecting any kind of big releases on a Friday. But this kind of makes sense to me, given that we didn't see like a huge amount more fanfare. Grayscale's report on Cardano knocked them for low fee structure. Not sure if they realize that's what we're about. Agreed. I thought the Grayscale, other people echoed this, or I should say other people said the same thing on Twitter independently. I think it's actually a great explainer document about Cardano. Like if I just met one of my friends, made me meet them a couple nights ago to basically just talk to them about crypto 101 stuff, which is so hard because when you're this deep in crypto, like a lot of us are, a lot of people watching this channel, and definitely me, are so deep in crypto, it's almost hard to take a step back and do the crypto 101 thing. But I realized even before that, but especially last night, I realized like the best first step for him to learn about Cardano probably would be reading that Grayscale article. So I think it's actually a good 101 type article. Have you ever met Charles? No comment. I would actually like to answer that, but no comment on that. It kind of depends on how you define certain of those words. Cardano NFT projects that you think are worthwhile. I'm really into functional NFTs, and in fact, the Cardano or the Army of Spies project, the Army of Spies channel. This channel was actually started because we have a DApp project that we're going to build out, and it's actually a functional NFT project. So, because our project is a functional NFT project, I've been thinking about functional NFTs for several years now. Going back to like 2018, our project was in Catalyst Fund 3, and I've been thinking about functional NFTs ever since then. So I'm not really into art NFTs. I think we have a very beautiful and vibrant art NFT community, and I love it. It's just not what I'm into. So I can't go too deeply on the NFT thing unless you want to talk about functional NFTs, and those I all love. Okay. Joe-san, anyone know any Mexico plus Cardano? I would love to hear it too. If anybody knows any news about Cardano in Mexico, I'd love to hear about it. Sorry, I hit this one. If you were financially free, what would you want to do in life? I'm pretty much doing that right now. I'm probably no matter what dollar amount or ADA amount I had, I think I would probably be doing something very similar to what I'm doing right now. So do we get first dibs on them on the Army Spies NFT project? Yeah, I mean, you guys will hear about it first. My plan would definitely be for you guys to hear about it first once we actually get it built out. But I'll probably talk about that pretty soon. I'll sort of talk a little bit about that. What's an example of functional NFT? If you want a really good example that actually has working code, look at Fricata from DC Spark. To me, that's a functional NFT. It's an NFT that does something, and they actually think that every DApp project in Cardano will require NFTs like they're proposing in the Fricata project as a way to verify which UTXOs, which unspent transaction outputs, actually belong to the DApp, are genuine to the DApp? Because there's this problem with, so I think if you've watched this channel, we've covered that there are a couple different solutions to the concurrency. I won't even call it an issue or problem anymore. It's just you have to approach concurrency differently in a UTXO system than you do in an account balance system. And there are sort of like two big camps. I'm sure there are other solutions too, but the two that have popped out, that have jumped out to me, are sort of the off-chain, a little bit more centralized solutions, kind of like the off-chain bot idea. I believe that's what Ergo was originally doing. And then you got these other solutions that involve distributed UTXOs. And Charles has also talked about this. He says there are like centralized ways to do it, and then there's like creating distributed UTXOs. And there's a problem because blockchains are obviously open and transparent. Anybody can see any Plutus scripts that are kind of on the chain. So because Plutus scripts are attached to the UTXO, we sort of colloquially say that a UTXO is being sent to a smart contract. And the documentation that DC Spark has put out explains this way more eloquently than I ever will. But basically, we colloquially say, hey, this UTXO is at this smart contract address, but that's not really how it works. Really, the way it works is that the scripts, the Plutus scripts, are attached to the UTXO. So the problem is somebody could create a UTXO with a different state than it's supposed to have and attach those same Plutus scripts to the UTXO. And if your smart contract, some people don't even like to use that term in the UTXO context, and I understand why. But if your smart contract doesn't have a way to determine which UTXOs are genuine to that little smart contract ecosystem, then somebody could change the data that's included in that UTXO and change sort of the starting state of that UTXO and figure out ways to exploit people who might interact with that UTXO later on in sort of the smart contract script, Plutus script flow, right? So that to me is a really interesting example of a functional NFT. That one's sort of like a developer tooling functional NFT. And obviously the kind of stuff that's really exciting to me is more like this stuff that's more B2C, like actual consumers like all of us would actually be able to interact with. So, Loam, interesting. Late Friday night, we're talking crypto. I'm all in. Me too, man. Me too. Friday night, no better time to talk about crypto, in my opinion. Okay, so Smaug Pool had a series of tweets that explain this really well. So here's the deal. Alonzo brought us Plutus scripts. Shelly brought us time lock scripts, which is why we're able to do stuff like NFTs prior to Alonzo, because we had scripts and those scripts did things like allow us to mint NFTs. Those are the time lock scripts. The scripts that came with smart contracts with Alonzo are Plutus scripts. So we've had time lock scripts for a long time. So you'll see these lists. People will publish these lists on Twitter, and the lists are like, hey, yes, we have, whatever number of smart contracts published on the chain right now, but, like 80% of them are time lock scripts, not Plutus scripts. That's because those are the same scripts you could have run before Alonzo. The Plutus scripts are the ones that only became possible with Alonzo. That's my understanding. If somebody has a better way to explain that or can explain why I'm wrong, please go ahead. But that's my understanding of that distinction right there. And I think a lot of people are confused about that. I, in fact, was confused about that as well when I saw some of those lists and they said time lock. But go to Smaug Pool's Twitter account, and he has a series of tweets that explain this very well. Thank you, JXCBB. That is very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. Paul Lorenzo. Yep, already answered that question. I think maybe you asked it before too, and I'm just re-encountering it. Okay, this is a really important question. Emerable, is there any gatekeeper for using Cardano or Emerable? I guess in English you would say Emerable. Is there any gatekeeper for using Cardano or Cardano projects? So I think this is a really important issue. So people will say, hey, the way to fix these smart contract exploits that basically ruin the experience on chains like Ethereum, the way to fix that is to have a gatekeeper that ensures high quality code in these Cardano projects. The problem is then you do not have a permissionless blockchain. And one of the beautiful things about true blockchains, in my opinion, is that they must be permissionless to be a true blockchain. So I think they have to be permissionless. However, oh, there's Big Pay. Hey, Army Spies. Hey, Big Pay. Thanks for joining, man. Appreciate it. However, Cardano is going to have these sort of like multiple tiers, right? So if we get the dApp store, if we get the Cardano dApp store, maybe on Boost mobile phones, if we get a dApp store on Boost mobile phones, they're going to allow anything in the dApp store. Anybody who creates a dApp can deploy that in the dApp store because we're a permissionless ecosystem. However, they're also going to have certification for smart contracts. I believe there's going to be an institution at the University of Wyoming. I'm using the term institution kind of loosely. It'll be a bunch of people who are really well versed in Plutus smart contracts, can audit the code in these smart contracts, which is going to be a little bit our smart contract ecosystem is way more amenable to that than a lot of other smart contract ecosystems because Haskell in general and Plutus as a subset of Haskell it's a lot easier to verify the validity of the code, right? It's formally verifiable. So it's gonna be a lot easier for them to actually certify these smart contracts. But at the same time, we're a permissionless ecosystem. So anybody who wants to create a terrible dApp and jam that into the dApp store is going to be able to. And I think that's important to maintain things like not censoring, projects that represent parts of the political spectrum that you don't necessarily like. I think we have to have that censorless type of ecosystem. It has to be permissionless. Otherwise, what are we doing? Okay. Let's see. What do we got? What is this? I just saw the most bizarre comment. Started moving. Army of Spies feet NFTs. Are you saying an Army of Spies NFT that has to do with feet? I won't delve too much into the motivation behind that comment. Okay. Okay, still skeptical on NFTs. Great now, but you don't want to be holding the bag with something no one wants to buy. Because I'm just I'm really excited about functional NFTs, and I'm not so much into the art NFTs. So I try not to comment too much in the space because I'm not really involved in it. But again, I'm very, very impressed by how vibrant and beautiful the Cardano NFT space is. I think it's like, as far as like art NFT spaces in crypto, I think ours is like a very beautiful version of that. Okay. AI speech analysis suggests you are Pacific Northwest. I get messages from people telling me they think I'm from all over. Okay. Let's see, Emerable. Yes, that is what I'm asking. You nailed it. If there is a country we don't agree with and Charles is going around making friends worldwide, what if that country does not do nice things? I talked about this in a recent video. I think it has to do, if you look at the history of the Cold War, especially, and things the West did during the Cold War, friends we made during the Cold War, the game of international relations is one where you sometimes have to make friends with people you normally would not want to be friends with. And I think the nation state adoption thing it's almost amplified, right? And I think the bottom line is that if you're trying to deploy something that's going to help the citizens of a nation state, you're going to have to deal with that government. One way or another, you're going to have to deal with that government. And maybe you don't even like maybe you like that government, maybe you don't like that government at all. Maybe they do things you don't like. But the only way to deploy that thing that's going to help the people of that country who, let's face it, often have almost zero say in who's running the government. The only way to help those people is to deal with that government. So I think there are some moral compromises. There are some moral compromises that have to be made sometimes to get something deployed that's going to help those people. Like you might have, the example I gave in the video the other day is that you might have a government that Toyota doesn't necessarily approve of. But at the same time, we kind of want the people of that country to have access to automobiles. We want them to have access to automobiles. So we don't want all the automobile manufacturers to say, we're not going to send automobiles to your country. You guys are all hoofing it. You're on foot or on bicycles because all the big auto manufacturers don't like the government. We kind of want people to have cars. And I kind of want people to have access to blockchain technology so we can improve the quality of life of those people. So we're probably going to have to deal with governments we might not like, you know. Okay. What are your thoughts on the Cardano Foundation? This is an interesting question. You know, I think it's almost too soon to tell. I mean, we made that big change. I think we all remember the Guardians of Cardano thing and getting rid of the old governance of the Cardano Foundation and getting in sort of the new foundation. And I almost think it's too soon to tell. The thing that obviously is sticking out to everybody is that the new foundation is very comfortable with traditional finance. And that's going to be a little bit polarizing. Some people are going to hate that. Some people are going to be very comfortable with it. I think it's going to be a little bit polarizing that they're so comfortable with the traditional finance world. But I guess we're going to have to see how that plays out. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, given that a lot of the rest of the ecosystem is maybe wasn't expecting that level of comfort with traditional finance. But I mean, it's Switzerland. What is Switzerland known for? What is Switzerland known for? I mean, there's a handful of things, and one of them is finance. So, you know, I think it's almost inevitable. Okay, this is an interesting comment. Charles is all about legacy integration. Interesting comment. Interesting comment. I think some people would look at that and it would take them a second to understand what you're saying. But I think that's a very interesting way to sum that up. Okay. Yep, Lowell is explaining what I was getting at with the Cold War analogy. World War II allies with Soviets, good example. Join the group that you may not like to beat the people you need to get rid of. Obviously, this is World War II, not Cold War, but it happened in World War II. I mean, allies. We can you could say they were allies, but I think there's really good Cold War examples. Obviously, we're the West, at least in name, was fighting the spread of communism, and they definitely made friends with some nation, we'll call them nation state leaders. The West definitely made friends with some nation state leaders that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. But yeah, the World War II example, probably a good one. You know, at the same time, allies, we're using allies kind of loosely there, but will Charles ever let go of Cardano and let it work on its own? Decentralized would mean we don't need a leader. Interesting. This is an interesting comment. I think this is something that's gonna keep coming up. I think I think Voltaire kind of solves this. Like the premise all along has been that we could not renew IOHK's status as lead developer one day via Voltaire. And I think we'll get that opportunity. I don't know how far down the road it is. I mean, when we're building out this gigantic ecosystem, we've talked about this a million times on this channel, but they're trying to build everything. they're trying to build in every possible benefit for the ecosystem. So when we say, when does Voltaire get to the point where we could actually vote out IOHK if we wanted to? I can tell you right now, I would not vote out IOHK. I mean, if something terrible happened in IOHK, if all the leadership of IOHK was on the same private plane and the plane went down and a bunch of new guys took over and they sucked, then maybe, yeah. But I mean, as it stands, I can't imagine anybody I would rather have in there than IOHK. But I do think it's important we get to the point where we could vote them out if we wanted to. And given sort of the theoretical, philosophical underpinnings that Charles seems to operate on, I can't imagine that we don't get there. Okay. Yeah. Do you hotbox that mask? No, I do not. No, I do not. I try to keep this mask very free of any kind of debris or particles like that. Which sector do you think will have the most value? DeFi, NFT, identity, property, IoT, AI, or something very, very different? Ooh. This is, I think there's going to be too much crossover between these. We kind of use these terms kind of have narrow definitions right now. Like we have this definition of NFT. If you say NFT to somebody, they think about art, right? But if you think about the application of the Furcata type NFT, I mean, it could apply to any of these. You could have NFTs in any of these because DC Spark thinks that every DApp is going to have NFTs. And DeFi, we talk about decentralized finance. I mean, isn't ADA a DeFi project? I mean, Cardano itself, an asset running on a decentralized blockchain, is a form of decentralized finance. So the ones that are a little more speculative, I think, are IoT and AI. And we've had a lot of projects sort of aimed at IoT, some even named after IoT. So we've had a lot of projects already, but I think as the use cases that fall under these different labels sort of mature, I think there's going to be so much crossover that we're going to have brand new labels. And the most valuable thing is probably going to be a brand new label that's not on this list or any list that any of us will come up with, because there have been so many developments in crypto that not a lot of people saw coming that were huge, that I don't really have a lot of confidence in us predicting what's actually going to be the biggest thing. The biggest label on the list is probably not on the list yet. Okay. Attack on Titan. Okay, so yeah, it's interesting you brought this up. We definitely never talked about this on the channel. So I was first exposed to Attack on Titan because I had an international visitor staying with me, and they loved Attack on Titan. And they kind of explained the story to me, and I was like, ridiculous. Don't even talk to me about your fights against giants. But actually the story is oddly compelling. So I don't think that's super connected to crypto, but it kind of jumped out at me because I was like super surprised when this particular person was talking to me about Attack on Titan, which I knew nothing of when they first brought it up. Okay. Liquid Finance tweeted recently they will be able to borrow stablecoins against your crypto holdings next to a picture of a popular art NFT project. Sounds like functional use for art NFTs coming. Yeah, that's interesting. It's not exactly what I had in mind, but yeah, certainly that's more functional than a lot of the NFT use cases out there right now. Yeah, we talked about this interview on the channel. It was a very good interview. I think the thing with Charles is when he's doing an interview with someone who's a little bit more outside the Cardano ecosystem, he is in some ways more forthcoming about things that he wouldn't paint things in the same way to us. If he was addressing us in an AMA, he would describe things differently, and it's really interesting to hear him describe them to somebody like Naomi Brockwell. So I also enjoyed that interview. The Titans are just so weird. Agreed. Very weird. Maybe the story is drawing inspiration from certain large nation states and their controlling overreach. Certainly agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at reading a tweet there that I want to put on the screen. I don't put I not tweet, but a comment. I don't put all the comments on the screen because some I think will be a little bit too polarizing, and I don't want to get everybody sidetracked on something something that's like too polarizing. If it's a little bit outside of crypto. I don't know. How many Cardano computation layer chains do you think can run on L1 Cardano settlement layer before congestion occurs? How much do we know of Mithril and Hydra ability to resolve this potential issue? So, okay, so Mithril solves the problem of light wallets and trustlessness. Hydra creates L2s for scaling. So obviously like Hydra is going to should take a load off L1. Mithril, I think Mithril is more about the trustlessness of light wallets. So I don't know if Mithril directly impacts that, but I mean Hydra as the launch of our L2 should. Okay. Yep, I agree with this. I think a lot of people underestimate just how much blockchain can affect things outside the financial sector. Yep. No chicks here, said everyone ever in crypto. There are some women in crypto for sure. I have seen them. They exist. No, actually, I think Cardano actually has some pretty good. I think Cardano has some pretty good female members of the ecosystem. So, but of crypto in general, I think that's a pretty true statement. Okay. What are your thoughts on ADA domain? Somebody sent me one. Somebody told me they grabbed one for me the other day. I think there were two use cases that were always, and these are kind of functional NFT use cases to me, but I think there were two functional NFT use cases that everybody knew were going to happen. And those were sort of the two different big pieces of the unstoppable domains business model on the Ethereum side, or let's say non-Cardano side, because I believe they started out with ZIL, but that's the blockchain domain piece and the human readable address piece, and obviously ADA handle, which I believe is launching for a lot of you guys. It's today. For a lot of you guys, it's tomorrow. And ADA domain is doing the domain piece. So, and I don't know too much about either project. Obviously, I follow everything they put out on Twitter, but I can't tell you, too much more than that. Yep, Andrew Wild hit it on the head. The so many dudes is the story of STEM. A tale as old as time. Very true. Very true. Yeah, Big Pay says it's 2 a.m. here. We'll come in the middle of the night and catch my first army of Spies live. Thank you for jumping on, Big Pay. I appreciate it. Convincing Crypto channel has a really smart woman. I haven't seen that. I'll check that out. I haven't seen it. Chicks are coming. Mass adoption is around the corner. Kind of, maybe, yeah. Maybe that's a metric you could use. Lots of women in Cardano. Yeah, I kind of agree. I kind of feel like there are a lot of women, and they make a lot of really good contributions to the community. So I agree with this very much. Agreed. So much utility of Cardano outside of currency. Yeah, I mean, I think what somebody posted up above about Liquid putting out a tweet about how they were going to interact with some like art NFTs. I think there's going to be a lot of like blending of these things that we sort of like silo in different columns. We got like art NFTs and we got DeFi. I think there's going to be a lot of blending of that, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of new things that kind of come into Cardano as we develop dApps that can actually run. Now that we apparently have, according to people's reports, either the all of the Plutus application backend out today, or some big piece of it, or whatever it was that came out today. I think there's going to be brand new stuff. Definitely outside the currency and outside a lot of the use cases that we kind of silo right now, and a lot of things are mixing those silos. So, yep. Speaking of women in the ecosystem, Nikki, who is in this chat right now. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's not the one I meant to click on, but thank you for being here at 3 a.m. I appreciate it. Okay, this one. Sorry, the comments are moving really fast. Thoughts on World Mobile and the new Cardano Dish partnership? Yeah, I think that could be big. I mean, obviously, I think it's safe to say that Sub-Saharan Africa is not a market that Dish is maybe known for focusing on. I think that's probably safe to say, but I think they also probably have a lot of infrastructure built out that you could imagine some. I'm gonna use like a terrible corporate term here, but you could imagine some synergistic things going on if World Mobile and Dish start talking, and they're both amenable to doing something together. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know this. I wonder if the person who said so I didn't ask anyone to grab one for me. Somebody just hit me up and said, I didn't even know that ADO domain existed. And somebody hit me up and said they had grabbed one for me, which was really nice. But oh, in Saudi Arabia, it's only 10 a.m. Okay, nice. Okay. Apparently we've got multiple Nickies. I didn't realize this. We've got Shroom Nikki, and we've also got a 1K Nikki. Okay, I didn't even realize because I just see your usernames. So we got multiple Nickies in the chat. Okay, why don't we go, guys? Why don't we go to the next little news piece, since we've already kind of talked about a bunch of things related to this. Let's go to the next little news piece and cover the Biden considering executive order stuff. Let's take a look at that. Sorry, I'm just going to locate the tab here. Okay. Sorry, you guys know I am terrible at finding the tab I'm looking for, but hopefully this is the one. Okay. So this is the Bloomberg article that everybody else is kind of citing. I think it's really interesting because what we've seen lately is that, and this is true of all administrations, but especially this administration, we won't We won't go into too much detail as to why it's probably exacerbated with this administration, but this administration loves to drop news items on Friday at the end of the news cycle. Why do they do that? Because they're hoping it's going to get less coverage over the weekend. Fewer people will see it over the weekend, but they will have released the information. And in this case, it's pretty obvious why they might be doing that. So the title of this article is Cryptocurrencies, White House Weighs Wide-Ranging Push for Crypto Oversight. And the first sentence is the Biden administration is weighing an executive order on cryptocurrencies. So the reason why they would want to drop this on a Friday with a friendly publication like Bloomberg, who would not use the word executive order in the headline. A lot of the other publications, you notice their headline definitely includes the words executive order. Bloomberg, no executive order in the headline, which is, I'm sure, something that was discussed with the current administration. Why? Because a lot of people consider it undemocratic to do things like this via executive order. Executive orders, sure, in a time of emergency, if the country is under attack, things like that are typically accepted as okay to be done by executive order. But if you're attempting to lay out a regulatory approach that would be, as Bloomberg puts it here, government-wide, people often like to see more legislative involvement in that kind of thing. But the current administration is dealing with a Senate that is split 50-50. If you count, we got 47 Democrats, 3 independents that vote with the Democrats, 50 Republicans, and then the vice president, her position as president of the Senate is the tie-splitting vote. It makes it difficult to get things done. So executive order is a much easier way to get it done. But this is the kind of news you want to drop on a Friday because some people will see it as a little bit undemocratic. So what are they actually doing? So they're saying they're considering doing this by executive order. They say they're working with the National Economic Council and the National Security Council. Why the National Security Council? When they say National Security Council, they mean like matters that concern the Defense Department and the intelligence community and all of our international relations apparatus. The reason they're involved is because it's much better if they can hang this on things like mitigating terrorist financing, mitigating, money laundering by narco traffickers, all these kind of things that would imply involvement in the National Security Council. And we saw this in the Senate subcommittee meetings. Senator Warner, not to be confused with Senator Warren, but Senator Warner is also a member of all the national security stuff going on in the Senate. He's a member of those subcommittees. And every time he's also on the financial services subcommittee, and every time they'd have a hearing and they'd bring somebody like Gensler or Yellen or Powell on, and the subject of crypto came up, he would talk about the national security implications of us regulating or not regulating crypto. So I think they're going to do a lot to try to hang this on as much of the national security stuff as they can. But according to this article, and this is something we talked about a little bit earlier when somebody asked the question, they have a little bit of a problem in the White House. They don't have a senior staffer with the requisite experience in crypto. Actually, that's not totally true. They do have this person, Tim Wu, who's a special assistant to the president for technology and competition policy, and he has knowledge in the area of crypto, according to the Bloomberg article. The problem, though, is Tim Wu, on his last report, had to disclose personal holdings of Bitcoin in excess of 1 million and holdings of Filecoin up to $250,000. So this guy has somewhere north of $1 million worth of crypto, and he had to recuse himself from all crypto policy making activities, right? So it's kind of a catch-22. It's like if you're a White House administration, you want a senior staffer who actually knows crypto. But those senior staffers probably hold crypto, so they're probably going to have to recuse themselves, which I think is interesting because you don't have people recusing themselves from other economic decisions that affect the US dollar if they hold US dollars, right? So they're kind of in a situation where I don't think they're going to be able to find somebody with the right experience who doesn't have to recuse themselves because they actually hold crypto. But this article does tell us, it sounds like they're like signaling how the current administration wants to hack up crypto regulation. So Yellen's going to push for bank regulators to regulate stablecoin issuers. Gensler, of course, is going to say that every crypto project is a security. The CFTC is going to say that everything that looks like a futures contract is a commodity. The DOJ just created something that they call the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team to investigate and prosecute the misuse of cryptocurrency. They created that on Wednesday. And the White House is also going to create a crypto czar. So this article just implies what they're considering, but this is pretty typical. When the executive branch wants to signal, hey, we're going to do something, they usually put something like this out there to kind of test the waters that says, we're considering doing the following things. So what do you guys think? Good for crypto, bad for crypto, irrelevant? What are your thoughts? Could be. That's terrifying. It's terrifying, but I won't say it's not possible. Yep, there's all kinds of executive orders for all kinds of things. Sounds like crypto has a flight right ahead. Did you mean a fight? They have a fight right ahead? Regulation means adoption. Maybe. Yep, maybe. Government involved is always bad. Bad for crypto. Gary Gensler has crypto experience, so he should recuse himself. Joe Starhuff. Yeah, I mean, most of you probably know Gensler taught crypto courses at MIT, so he definitely has crypto experience. He should recuse himself. That's pretty good. Cloud attack. Greetings from the beautiful mid-north coast of Australia. Just got on. I'll rewind later. Thanks for your work, mate. Thanks for jumping on. I appreciate that, Cloud attack. Oh, rough flight. You were saying crypto price a rough flight ahead. Yep, Liam. Yep, I agree. Rough ride ahead. I'll take rough ride or rough flight. Either one. I think we have one of those two ahead of us for sure. Oh, this is an interesting way to think about this. Considering the war against drugs, I think crypto will be fine. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Interestingly, all throughout the Western Hemisphere, the war against drugs has been, to the extent it was actually fought with any actual intent. I think I've definitely been in, I was definitely somewhere in Latin America where a gigantic shipment washed up on the beach somewhere where I was staying, and the entire small town I was in was going crazy because this entire gigantic shipment just washed up on the beach one morning. Some traffickers, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they had some kind of a dead drop just offshore there and they didn't weight it properly or what happened. But definitely a variety of nation states have been very bad at fighting a war on drugs, that is for sure. To the extent that they even wanted to. Maybe there were only a select number that even wanted to, and the rest were just pretending. Okay, Bindocom. Personally, I think it's good to see them acting on it because doing it sooner rather than later leads us to some kind of knowledge about how things will be going forward. Yeah. There was another big article. There was a big article in maybe I won't actually pull it up, but there was a big article on Gensler. I probably won't actually pull it up right now. It was in Bloomberg. You can access it at news.bloombergtax.com. And basically what they said was that as head of the CFTC, a lot of you probably know Gensler was head of the CFTC prior to this. Now he's head of the SEC. He's very used to, the article characterizes him as being very adept at manipulating bureaucracies. And he was known in his tenure as head of the CFTC for being able to get a ridiculous number of things done. And by things done, I mean new regulations at the CFTC. That's what he was really good at and really known for. And the other thing they pointed out was that at the CFTC, he seemed to always start with the harshest possible regulatory position, so that then they could kind of be negotiated towards a middle ground that they were actually initially okay with. But he goes for the negotiation style where you start out with the ridiculous position, and then you let the adversary negotiate you to the middle position, which is actually way more in your direction than it should be. So it could be we're experiencing that, but I would also love for him to just put his cards on the table and, lay it out. If you guys have a regulatory framework for crypto, a comprehensive regulatory framework, lay it on the table. Let's talk about it. Let's get to negotiating. Let's not mess around anymore. Let's get some regulatory clarity. And I hate it when he says we already have regulatory clarity. Senators in those subcommittee meetings will literally throw their hands in the air every time he says that. Even our senators know that there's no regulatory clarity in crypto. We need that Wi-Fi moment. What could that mean? I think it's for me, it's some B2C DApp getting as popular as Pokemon Go or Venmo or something like that. I think that's maybe, I know by Wi-Fi moment, you're talking about something a little bit more infrastructure related. But for me, the big jump forward is when we have a DApp that my mom, my mother's friends want to use and don't know anything about crypto or even care that it's crypto related. That for me is going to be a big moment. My fear is that digital identity will be used for evil more than good. I hope I'm wrong. I really liked what Charles said about this. Where was it? Was it in the Naomi Brockwell interview? Was it in the Naomi Brockwell interview where he addressed this? I think he was right when he said that totalitarian and authoritarian states hate crypto. I think they do, because crypto is an expression of personal freedom over your finances, and that does not align with the goals of totalitarians. So sure, they like identity that they control. They don't like decentralized identity. They like centralized. They love identity, but when they say identity, they mean centralized identity. They don't want the citizenry controlling their own identity, like decentralized digital identity would imply. Washington, you know what? Actually, I think that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the DC speech he flew out to right after the summit. Thanks for that correction, Norman. You're right. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen this blog post. So apparently Red Spark did a blog post about the connection between smart contracts and dApps. Is the missing finality on PAB really holding us back currently? Yeah, we need the Plutus application back end. We need that tooling badly, for sure. I haven't seen this this blog post. I'd like to see it though. Yep, I agree with this. Governments do not like anonymity. They like identity. They like transparent identity. Which also means they don't like citizens being able to decide when the citizen uses identity. They like the identity to be there for the government to see at all times. Blockchain AI for president 2040. That's there's all kinds of philosophical questions tied up in that. Could we ever decide to have an AI-led executive branch? I mean, certainly you can envision a future where AI is far more intelligent than any human could be. Do you want them running the executive branch of any like large government because of that? There's a lot of philosophical questions tied up in that. And some of them, depending on how you fall on those philosophical questions, they might be existential for the human race if you have an early Elon type conception of what AI might mean for the human race. Do you think AI has a future with crypto? Yeah, I definitely do. I think you get into some really interesting stuff and some really weird stuff when you have really powerful, widely available AI. I think there's going to be really interesting stuff if SingularityNet is able to build out their AI marketplace. Some really wild and interesting stuff happens. And if you have really powerful AI involved in markets, I think some really weird stuff starts happening, possibly. But I think some really interesting stuff happens too. Okay. I hope not. I hope the digital dollar does not enslave us. I'm against being enslaved. I'll go on the record right now and say I'm against being enslaved. I'm very much against all that. Yep. The AI prez will go all Skynet on us. That is the fear. That is definitely the fear. China upload Skynet onto SingularityNet. Yeah, also against that. I'm against Skynet in all of its manifestations. Yeah, so I mean, definitely, this is something that I think some of the best analysis on this to me comes from Raoul Pal. Some of the best, like easily consumable sort of video kind of analysis on this. I'm sure there's people who've written, like gigantic treatises on this, exploring all the different philosophical questions and practical questions. But Raoul Pal has really good information about this, I think, and he gets into the behavioral economics tools that suddenly become available the second you have a central bank digital currency. I mean, if you think about it, with a CBDC, you can subsidize very narrow pieces of the population, very narrow slices. Like if the hospitals are getting overwhelmed, you could just economically stimulate the nurses. The word order I originally was going to use there would have implied something very different, but you could economically stimulate the nurses. You could subsidize the nurses and the frontline healthcare workers because they're about to be overwhelmed. If a certain industry is hit really hard by something weird, like I don't know, like some kind of a pine beetle infestation in the Northwest, you could use CBDCs to stimulate lumberjacks, or something like that. Or you could just use it generationally. Like you could decide like, hey, the boomers have too much money. They have too much in savings. We need them to spend. So you get the boomers to spend. Or if you decide you want people in their 20s and early 30s to save more money because they're spending too much, you could give them higher interest rates using CBDCs. So there's a lot of really weird behavioral economic stuff that becomes possible with CBDCs. So I don't think you're all wrong there. Yep, I think it's one of the most beautiful things about Prism. People overlook it. It gives you control over access to your data. Okay. Actually, I just mentioned the Northwest because somebody was talking about the Northwest earlier. That's actually why I mentioned that. Okay. Will the Fed create a new blockchain for transacting in a CBDC or issue CBDC tokens on existing blockchains? For sure, it's going to be the most centralized. I mean, there are going to be, if there are nodes on this blockchain, they will all be controlled by the Fed. That's what kind of blockchain you're talking about here. They're not going to be issuing their CBDC on an existing blockchain. They're not going to trust a bunch of dudes with with rigs in their basements to run the blockchain that the US CBDC is running on. I would imagine I'd be super shocked and pleased, but very, very shocked if a US CBDC didn't run on anything but a federated blockchain where the Fed controls all the nodes, because they want control of all those nodes so they can do things that you would not be able to do in a public blockchain. Okay. Federal Reserve and central banks emulate China's ban on decentralized crypto. Gensler said in a House Financial Services Committee meeting, somebody asked him straight up, "Are you going to ban crypto?" And he said, "The U.S. government has no intention of banning crypto." So to the extent that is comforting, there you go. Okay. Starlink. So the first time I took a few days off from the channel when we were several months in, I took a few days off from the channel and I made videos to cover those days I was gone. But some of you will remember when I was away, I was in a place where I was in a really isolated place where you can see every star in the sky. And Starlink went overhead, and it was one of the most amazing things. It's like the people who were with me that night, they thought we were being invaded by aliens. It was like such a remarkable sight in the night sky. If you didn't know that things like Starlink exist, there are people who could have been talked into believing that was an alien invasion happening. Like the way Starlink changes the night sky is so dramatic. It's so amazing. When you can actually see those things going overhead, it's very, very dramatic. I'm sure that's not the information you were after there, but that is my only firsthand experience with Starlink so far. Andrew signed up. Andrew Wild says he signed up waiting for a dish. Let us know how it works. I'll be curious to hear. Gaike says Charlie 3 said he was ready to deploy but couldn't yet because of something with the Plutus backend for wallets. Yeah, there we go. He's probably waiting on something with the Plutus application backend. Yep, I think everybody's in that same boat. Okay. €90 a month. Okay. There's some potential pricing on Starlink in Europe. Would World Mobile use Starlink? Charles mentioned this. Obviously, Charles, not necessarily speaking for World Mobile necessarily, but Charles mentioned one time, he's like, hey, we've got World Mobile in our ecosystem, and they could probably use. It probably wouldn't be terrible for them if our ecosystem was talking to Starlink a little bit. But now we've got Dish, so there's the Dish thing, and I don't know if there's any potential at all there, but wouldn't it be cool? Grayskull says he looked at it for his parents, but it's like 100 pounds a month in the UK. Okay. And about 500 pounds to set up. Yep, that's pretty serious. That's pretty serious. Okay, here we have an actual user of Starlink. I got my Starlink Disky several months ago when the coverage was thin. It is solid, improves with each launch. Okay, great. Dishy. Got his Dishy. He says Dishy. Okay. I miss Charles. Somebody's asking if I speak Spanish. Definitely spent a lot of time around Spanish speakers. I can say that for sure. Christopher, I miss Charles. Yeah, it's kind of weird not to have the AMAs, right? It's weird not to have the AMAs going on right now. Couldn't anyone using World Mobile buy a Starlink dish and provide internet that way? I don't think I would defer to World Mobile to comment on that, but I think they're intending on people using using. I think they have certain types of hardware that works their system, like those air nodes. I don't know if you could get immediate integration if you just bought a Starlink dish and you just sort of like told World Mobile that that's what you're doing. I think it might be a little more complicated with that than that, but I'll leave that for World Mobile to comment on. He is eating bison meat and hanging with his model girlfriend. I hope so. I hope he is. Andrew makes a good point. It's been a week. Give the guy a true break. I agree with that. The dude does deserve a break. No question. No question. Oh, here's a good one. Can Bitcoin be successful long term in El Salvador and Brazil, considering its volatility, or is Charles in their ear pushing Jed and something more stable? Um, I think so there's a lot of coverage of this in the Spanish language press in El Salvador. And the Salvadorian press talked a lot about Nayib Bukele's brothers, who are kind of like his informal advisors, having a lot of conversations with people about a Salvadorian national coin of some type. So who knows? Those same newspapers talked about a lot of different things that didn't necessarily happen. So I wouldn't be surprised though if we see some kind of a Salvadorian specific coin that comes up, whether that's a CBDC of their own or some kind of a stable coin pegged to something else. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see it. Okay. Okay, it is supply too high. Your opinion, and why would they choose so many tokens? Just wondering. It's Charles has addressed this a bunch of times, and I think he's exactly right. It's just a decimal point, right? Whether you have 45 billion coins or 45 million or 450,000 or 45, it doesn't really matter because you can just move the decimal point, right? It's like, do you want to own one ADA for $2.25, or do you want to own 1/10,000th of an ADA? You know what I mean, for $2.20. It can be either one, and you just change the total supply, right? So what really matters, you have to think about it in terms of market cap. The total supply, I mean, there are some like psychological effects of different total supply numbers, and there are reasons to go higher, right? Psychologically, but mathematically it doesn't matter. You're just moving the decimal point at that point. Okay, yeah, people are highlighting the psychological effects. Everyone can have a seat in the Cardano community. Yeah, I mean, psychologically, there's something to people being able to easily buy an ADA whereas most people will never be able to buy a Bitcoin. Not that that wasn't the case when I got into Bitcoin, but it is now. I love this. Cloud Attack says crypto is getting taken up in Indonesia in a big way at the moment. Huge markets, hundreds of millions of people there. I hope so. I would love it if crypto becomes huge in Indonesia. I think that's great. Yeah, that's a great question, dude. If he's saying if rogue states started using JED, do you know of any way governments could stop or hinder them? Nope, nope, not really. I mean, they in a permissionless ecosystem, you can't really stop anybody from using it. So yeah, I think rogue states will definitely they'll definitely use crypto, and their crypto choice will be whatever is easiest for them to use, and maybe that'll be stable coins. Let's see. Have you ever talked about the metaverse? What do you think about it? Yes, I love any kind of metaverse application for crypto. I usually have about a couple weeks ago, I had like 3 meetings in 1 week in Decentraland, which I consider to be a metaverse of sorts. I know people have different definitions for metaverse. And actually, one time on the channel, we went through sort of like, I believe we went through the history of that term metaverse, going through a lot of the literature. I think that was the same episode where we went all the way back to Snow Crash, and we talked about Snow Crash and some of the early literature and how the definition of that term evolved and all that stuff. But I think it's huge. I saw a little bit of Twitter activity today by cornucopias, which is like, I think we've seen of the projects you would say are going in the direction of a metaverse in the Cardano ecosystem. I think maybe cornucopias, we've seen maybe the most out of them. And to me, one of the best examples, one of the best ways to learn about a project is Paul's interview. So Cardano with Paul channel. Check out his interview with the guys from Cornucopias. That's a great interview. You can learn about exactly what those guys are doing. And I saw some activity on Twitter today. I think they're going to release some kind of a trailer soon. I don't know how far along they actually are, but they definitely seem to be going in the direction of some place where we can go in and walk around, and it's very crypto oriented. So I think that's all going in a very excuse me, guys, very interesting direction. Cardano City. I was excited when Cardano City was just a big mystery to us, and we didn't know exactly what it was going to end up being. I was hoping it would become a metaverse, and maybe, who knows, maybe it still will. They're pretty mysterious and quiet. Obviously, what we have now are a bunch of NFTs representing apartments in Cardano City, maybe condos, whatever you call those kind of things where you are. We've got that right now. Who knows? Maybe they have plans to turn that into a metaverse one day. Maybe they don't. I can't tell. They're very mysterious. I think their artwork is very beautiful. I think it's the aesthetic in their project is very awesome. But I'm not as much into art NFTs. If it becomes like if those same NFTs cross over into a metaverse one day and it becomes this Cardano City metaverse that has that same aesthetic, I'll be very interested in it, because to me that's those would then become functional NFTs if they actually serve some function in an actual metaverse like that. Okay. Blockshock says, dude, I'm fading since I'm a geriatric compared to the rest of you. Crypto whippersnappers. Good night, my friends, and Cardano's life. See you later. Thank you so much for jumping on. Appreciate it. I know we don't usually talk price action. So I do look at different models. And I have positions about the validity of almost all of them, but I don't want to proliferate that on this channel because I don't want to be responsible for people relying on anything I say in that regard. So I'll leave that to you guys to decide. I've talked about one particular model a tiny bit. Not that I think it's particularly authoritative, just because it's extremely widespread and it's interesting. So I talked about it because it's interesting, not indicating that anybody should rely on that in any way. But that was quite a while ago. Green Tools NYC is here. Very good. Very good. Okay. I know you don't talk Fibonacci's and such, but I'd love to know your thoughts on a lengthening cycle this time around. Yeah, I don't want to comment on it because like I said, I don't think anybody can predict these things. I really don't think anybody can predict it. I think a bunch of dudes throw models out there, and occasionally the models are correct, and whether or not there's any predictive value in those things, I don't think there's enough of a case yet to really talk about it. Yep, no Fibonacci's today. I don't know. This has been kind of like a little bit of a mystery. I kind of think, I believe Charles told us he now owns all the equity in IOHK. So I'm assuming that means he bought out Jeremy Wood. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Nor do I really care. I kind of think that's like, that's between them. That's like internal to IOHK. I don't really think it matters. I think, we ended up with an IOHK that's owned by Charles, and Jeremy Wood, as far as I know, is not in the picture anymore. And who knows? I don't really think it's important though, so I don't try to investigate that at all. Okay. So this is a two-parter. Why isn't anyone talking about the amount of BTC that'll be wrapped in the ecosystem when everything's fully deployed? You're right. People haven't talked about that too much. I think we'll see it. We'll see that happening for sure. All kinds of wrapped assets. Like we've got things like the Milkomeda sidechain from DC Spark, where we'll have wrapped Cardano that can interact with an EVM sidechain. I'm sure there'll be wrapped Bitcoin. That's kind of awesome. Those are DeFi metrics that DeFi people worry about. I don't know if that's really that meaningful a metric. For DeFi projects is very meaningful, but for long-term health of the ecosystem, I don't even know if it's that important. For me, at least. I don't really think about those two at all. I find it interesting to see how fascinated Elon is with Doge, but I think about Sheeb like almost zero and Doge like very close to zero, minus just paying attention to being amused by Elon's fascination with it. Okay, what do we got here? Yep, we just covered it, Brody. Go back and watch the replay. We covered it earlier in the live stream. The best article is on Bloomberg. I think almost everybody reporting is just citing that Bloomberg article. And we kind of went through, I think, all the high points of the article. Let's see. What have we got here? What have we got here? Do I like the Star Atlas potential as a metaverse? I don't know anything about it. I'd have to look it up. Let's check that one out. Rogue states use a dollar. Yes, they do. Thank you, Raphael. I appreciate that. Okay. Can you see anything else like NFT trees? Feels like Charles is really trying to roll out and showcase the many uses and functionalities of Cardano at such a rapid pace. I think we're going to see a lot of cool use cases like that coming up. I think as soon as we get the Plutus application backend in and you can actually launch dApps, I think we'll start seeing a lot of cool stuff. Instead of a stablecoin backed by gold, how about highly competitive zero pollution hydrogen instead of petrodollar? I don't know if, with the takeoff of electric, I almost think atom dollar, electron dollar would be more appropriate. Okay. So I think the best way to gauge this is to watch channels like Real Vision. When you watch some of those old Wall Street guys talk about crypto, you understand that it's like so foreign and new and incomprehensible to them that they're just gauging everything by sentiment. They're just like looking at how much sentiment is behind the community. And they know it's pretty easy for them to discover that Bitcoin is humongous and ETH is gigantic. And so they just focus a lot of energy there. You know what I mean? Because the technology, the learning curve on the technology is so steep that they kind of like start with sentiment, and a lot of them never get past that. I mean, they'll look at things like market cap and coin supply and stuff like that. Of course, they understand those things because it's kind of the same as the equities world. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of them aren't wrapping their heads around the technology. They're just looking at sentiment. And when they measure it by those standards, they're just like, Bitcoin's the biggest, and then you got ETH. And that's all we need to know. So I think that's a lot of what's going on. Yep, I love Real Vision. I love it. I agree. I hope so. I've kind of maintained all along that even though Charles was saying Rogan after Gogan, it's kind of up to Rogan. Like, I think there's a lot of people who want to get on his show. And I don't know how easy it is to get on that show if you're the head of a blockchain, even if it's like the number 3 or 4 blockchain and you're a very charismatic personality who's used to doing media like Charles. He seems to have Andreas Antonopoulos on once every couple of years, and that seems to be it. So I know he's had Ben Gertzel on. I think some other kind of like crypto adjacent people. And obviously Ben Gertzel is not just crypto adjacent, but somebody could have him on a podcast just for his AI expertise, even though he's pretty deep in the crypto world too. What did you get first, BTC or ETH or any other? Or what were you up to? So I was in BTC before ETH existed. So definitely BTC. So BTC, and then I can't remember if I owned anything else before Ethereum came along. I kind of find it hard to believe that Ethereum was the second coin I owned, but I can't really remember. It's been too long now. What were you up to when BTC came out back in 2009? In order to answer that question, I'd have to tell a little story about myself, and I try not to do that on this channel. I try to keep it focused on Cardano. But that would be, there are many stories I could tell about that particular time period. Okay. Hi, Studio Malacca. Hi, I'm an indie game developer. I would love to use Cardano for my next game, both for the internal currency and NFTs. Do you by chance know any other YouTube resource that I should check? Wow. There are so many. Oh my God. I don't even want to give you a list because there's so many good Cardano. There's so many good Cardano YouTube channels. Big Pay, who you'll find in the comments here. He has a great channel. Cardano with Paul is a great channel. Jack Ingram's channel is great. On Twitter, you could follow. You know, there's so many. Hit me up, send me a message on Twitter or something like that, and I'll give you a more comprehensive list. I'm gonna screw up if I start getting into all the Twitter accounts you can follow. I'm gonna screw up and leave people out. So hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at this username on Twitter pretty easily. But hit me up and I'll give you a list. Let's see. Oh, and also follow Charles. Watch Charles's AMAs, and you'll learn a lot about the Cardano ecosystem. And there's a huge number of them, so you can watch those for like a month. You don't go on Rogan unless Joe wants to talk to you. So maybe, yep. And I think Rogan, he might be picking his guests these days based as much on personality as on subject matter expertise. So I mean, if he watches one of Charles's AMAs, he may decide like, okay, this guy's personality will make for a good podcast with me, or it won't. And it's not necessarily a reflection on that person's expertise in the particular subject matter. So who knows? Maybe Rogan took one look at Charles and was like, I don't think our personalities will mesh. So pass on that one. Who knows? Okay. Yep. I agree with Andrew on both. I agree with Andrew on both of those, Studio Malacca. I don't know. I mean, Charles got around a lot back in the old days, so it could be they have some kind of history, but I think Willy Woo probably the maximalism is probably enough of a reason to hate Cardano and by extension Charles, or vice versa, to hate Charles and by extension Cardano. London Real. So London Real has kind of a controversial history a little bit. I think it's great if Charles goes on it, but London Real initially had kind of two hosts, and the other host, Nick, he has some things to say about the current host. So London Real is not uncontroversial. And I mean, anybody in London knows about the political campaign and all that kind of stuff and all the controversy there, but probably maybe people outside of the UK don't know about that. But I think it's a great move. I would do the same if I was Charles. If I got an invite to go on London Real, I probably would. The early days of that podcast were excellent. When Nick, what's his last name? Nick Grigoriadis, when he was a co-host, those were awesome. And when I heard Nick years later describe the circumstances under which he was no longer a part of that podcast and what he thought had transpired since then, I was super disappointed because I thought the podcast was awesome when it first started, and maybe it still is, but I haven't listened in years, and I was kind of disappointed to hear what Nick had to say about that recently. Yeah, I mean, Charles is one of these guys. Who he gives it to you straight, right? Like I can't imagine Charles like being in a boardroom or any kind of room. In crypto, maybe it's not even a boardroom, but being in any kind of a room with a bunch of other people and him hearing something he doesn't agree with and like staying quiet about it and just sort of going along with something he thinks is stupid. He's not that kind of personality. And those kind of personalities make good leaders, but I don't know that those kind of personalities could just like be a team member necessarily, because that often involves going along with other people's stupid ideas, even when you know they're stupid. And I don't think Charles really has that in him. Yes, he did. He did run for mayor. He got in that phase where he was wearing the very, very fancy suits and running for mayor. And Nick Gregoriadis has a lot to say about that. He obviously wasn't around for the mayoral run, but he has a lot to say about what kind of what he thinks happened, uh, there. So check out what he has to say about that. You should make the first ever exposure of your identity into an NFT. I'll buy so my kids know who Tommy was. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Hopefully I never have to expose my identity. I'm not like building up to an identity reveal. I honestly hope that never happens. I want it to stay this way forever. It's not a gradual buildup or anything. I just don't ever want to. So hopefully I get my way on that. We'll see. Yeah, I agree. Like just looking at the way he's built Cardano, I tend to agree. Yeah. If I had $1 billion, I would not shut up. Yeah, I think his deal is he was like that before he had the $1 billion too. So obviously I was not there, but that's my guess. Uh, hey, if you guys have some other suggestions for Studio Malacca, some other people you think Studio Malacca should follow, whether those are YouTube channels or NFT or Twitter accounts. See that automatically associated Twitter with NFTs. So I was thinking Twitter and I actually said NFTs. That's how strong the association is in my mind right now. But post those in the comments. If you think there's somebody that Studio Malacca should follow, let them know, because I think anytime a game developer comes to our ecosystem, they're like, let me learn about Cardano. I think all of us support that like 110 million%. So let's see. Hey, Jeffrey Lim. Nope, don't know anything about helium. Nope, don't know anything about it. Don't know anything about it. I'd have to read up on it. I just don't know anything about that. Did you guys already talk about Ergo? Nope, haven't talked about Ergo. No, I'm not sure if you're asking because of the imposters who are constantly in the comments. Yep, Kaizen's a good one. Big Pay's a good one. I try to delete those as quickly as possible. But if you ever see anybody in the comments and they're telling you to go somewhere else to talk to them, it's not me. If it's WhatsApp or Telegram, they're going to use the same logo as me. They're going to use the same name as me. It's not me. I will never be in the comments or anywhere else telling you to come talk to me anywhere else. Occasionally on the videos, if somebody says they want to, they're asking where to message me or something, I might tell them to reach me on Twitter, but I do not have a Telegram. I do not have a WhatsApp. I won't ever ask you to go to any of those places. CryptoVisor, yep. There's a #dev and #gaming channel on CoinChat, but we haven't officially launched yet. Okay, cool. Yep, Studio Malacca. I'm mostly looking for resources from a technical point of view. I'm a huge fan of Cardano in general as an ecosystem, so I follow already quite a lot of generalist content creators. Okay. Yeah, the two suggestions that Andrew gave you probably most useful. There's a little bit of stuff coming out from IOHK. I'm assuming you've already hit their. I mean, it's all open source, so you can hit their GitHub too. There's quite a bit of information there. Flint, experiment a lot soon. M1 sidechain will be really interesting. These are both DC Spark projects. Flint is their wallet for Cardano and Solana, and I think it interacts with their EVM stuff as well, right? The really interesting thing about Flint to me is they're already letting us know that Flint will allow you to interact with smart contracts using your hardware wallet, just like you can use your hardware wallet on your Roy. No surprise, because Sebastian had something to do with Yoroi over at Emergo. So no surprise that Flint will have that same functionality. And of course, Emergo is also putting out their DApp connector, and it sounds like Flint will also allow you to do that as well. Okay. Millerman, hey, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, and thank you for jumping on tonight. I really appreciate it. No, I do not own a staking pool currently. Thank you for that second part. You don't need to disclose which one if you do. But no, I would tell you guys, if I own a staking pool, I will definitely tell you guys. Unless there's some compelling reason, if I set to like self-stake or something and I don't want people to join it, then maybe I wouldn't tell you under those circumstances. But if I had a public stake pool with delegators, I would definitely mention it on this channel, that's for sure. Yeah, please do. Studio Malacca, please come on the channel, or just hit me up on Twitter and let me know your progress. And if it's helpful to you, I'll report it here on the channel. Okay. Yep, 80180 puts out really frequent content as well. Here's a good one. IOHK Technical Discord. Phantom Rise. Don't know anything about it. Tell me about it. I don't know anything about Phantom Rise. Gerald, follow K Tours. There you go. Yep, actually, I agree with that. I agree with that one. Tyler's saying that the Milkomeda M1 sidechain, that's the EVM sidechain, the Ethereum virtual machine sidechain, block times are going to be 2 seconds. Sounds good. What do you think about Gero Wallet? I honestly haven't looked into it. Obviously, I'm aware of its existence, but I haven't looked into it at all. So I don't know anything about it. Coty have been quiet. Yeah, I noticed on their page. So the Cardano Summit, Shahaf Bar Geffen was like, yeah, you should be able to mint Coty in the coming weeks. You can go to the website right now. And then we went to the website, and all of us who heard that, and the website just kind of showed, hey, Jed coming soon. By the way, to get whitelisted, you need to be an accredited investor, which is probably smart of them from a compliance perspective, but probably a huge letdown for a lot of people who thought they were going to be sort of reserve token, liquidity providers in that ecosystem. It sounds like possibly you won't be able to do that unless you are an accredited investor. Okay. Yep. Great Twitter account to follow. Okay, what we got here? Cody's CEO, Shahaf Bar Geffen, is working on buying a better mic. That's pretty good. I definitely watched that recent. I think I covered it on the channel. Recent interview he did with I can't remember the name of the channel, but I definitely watched that. Very few. Very few, very few people know about. Obviously, there are people who know me in real life, and there are people who know this channel, and the Venn diagram has a very small intersection. Very few people. I have it. You should have guests on, but they're all. I might do that. I might do that. If we do, once we obviously once it comes time to actually launch the Army of Spies project, which is down the road, that's something we're going to build. It's not anything that's like impending, but obviously if we did the Army of Spies project, then I'd probably have the other people involved in the project come on if they wanted to. And there's other things we might do too. And if other people involved in those things want to come on, I would definitely have them on. That'd be fun. Let's see. I don't know. I was following it kind of closely when projects were releasing early on. I was kind of following that, but now I don't really know I saw some of the early projections when people were like estimating they were going to launch. That was maybe like a month ago, but I haven't really kept track of who recently or how people had updated their estimates. So I don't really know. Halloween episode. Come on, do a special. One of those very few people who know me in real life and know about this channel actually had an idea for that. So we'll see if they get there, if they can talk me into it. We'll see. I am 100% COVID-19 compliant when it comes to PPE. Good, excellent. Who are we? Oh, when I say we, so there's someone else who's involved in the like I said, the idea for the Cardano DApp project existed before this channel. This channel I started just as part of that DApp project, and there's someone else who has always been involved in that DApp project, and that problem. So we have similar email addresses. Mine, and you can find out those email addresses if you need them. If you look, you'll find them. My email address is the one that has the color black attached to it, and the other person has the color white attached to it. That's the we in most cases. There's some other little things we're working on. One other thing besides the DApp that we're kind of working on, where there's one other person involved too. Daft Punk guys, definitely family members. Okay. Nikki says Halloween special. Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. That'd be pretty fun. Maybe we'll do it. If we did a Halloween special, though, we might have to have people somehow submit like photos of their costumes. We could look at everybody else's costumes too. This is one of those things that I have a position on, but it's the topic is too polarizing, and I don't want us to get sidetracked, so I won't comment on that here. It's a yes, there are women. There are women in the community. That is for sure. People on the channel. Okay, so we've gone for 2 hours tonight, guys. Let's have last questions. Let's get into some last questions here so we don't go too long. Do you see ADA reaching $10 a cycle? I have an opinion on that, but I don't like to share it because I don't want anybody to rely on that because I don't think it's of sufficiently predictive value. Coxmaster says we ran out of questions. Good. I hope that means I did my job tonight. I hope that means somebody's somebody's asking a question about a very specific question about what I might have been doing before. I try not to answer those questions because I don't want you to see it sidetracked and make it a thing about me. Somebody's asking about like what continent my ancestors might have come from. That's another one. I try not to answer that question because I don't want the channel to be about me. You have a list of topics you want to stick with listed somewhere? No, I mean anything, pretty much anything Cardano is good. I just try to keep it. I try to keep it focused on Cardano. So if it's about Cardano, it's probably good, unless it's like unless it's like a veiled question that's really about something else, and you just kind of tack Cardano onto it. Yeah, actually, there's actually Marlowe code. I actually wrote Marlowe code that was in the Catalyst proposal. I had Marlowe code right in the Catalyst 3 proposal. Of course, I think we can do a better job now. But there was like very rough kind of, I mean, Marlowe wasn't even as developed then as it is now. Some of the tools that produce the code are actually even different now than they were then. So the code would probably look differently if I duplicated it again now. But honestly, I don't even know if Marlowe is I don't think Marlowe is sufficient. I think it needs to really be in Plutus. But I did draft out some Marlowe code for that, just so people could see kind of mechanically how we wanted it all to work. What is the one back burner concept for a video that you're working on but not ready yet? There's a lot. I don't want to tell you any of them because people will remember, and then they'll keep asking me when that video is coming out. And I kind of go through this process where I have an idea and then I think about it for a while and I decide if it's actually worthy of popping up in a video. And a lot of them aren't. At the end of the day, I decide that a lot of them aren't actually a good enough topic to present to you guys. So I actually don't put those into a video. So I don't dare tell you any because I'm not absolutely positive that any of them will actually make a video. Okay, what else? Stop, collaborate, and listen. Wise advice from the hip hop community to the rest of the world. That is wise advice. Oh, dude, there's so many. Who would I want to have a boozy night on the town with? Oh, there's so many of those guys I would love to go have a drink with. So many. Christopher, Night Owls. Yes. Yeah, and we truly are night owls on these live stream nights too. I think it's going to be the best. I think Cardano governance is going to be the best for sure. So we talked about it a little bit in this live stream, but I've talked about it a lot in prior videos. I don't even think it's an issue anymore. I think you've got multiple solutions. Some of them are off-chain and more centralized. Some of them are distributed UTXOs. And the cool thing is we're going to find out what's best. We're going to find out what is the best approach to concurrency. I think it's just like different approaches to concurrency. I don't even think it's a problem or an issue. I think it's just we're like real time figuring out best practices to create concurrency in a UTXO system. I think that's what we got. What do you think about ADA handle? I think human readable addresses are a sign of I think they're a sign of a maturing ecosystem. So I think it's great. I mean, if you want to talk about them technically, it's kind of an interesting thing. I'd love to see somebody write an article about sort of. No, I won't even get into it. I won't even get into it since they're launching tomorrow. I'll just say I think it's a sign of a maturing ecosystem that exists, and it's like we always knew that the two parts of the unstoppable domains business model, blockchain domains and human readable addresses, we always knew that those would be something that would exist in Cardano, and now we're here. So I think it's good. We didn't get funded, which is kind of a relief to me because I kind of wanted to sort of take our time with our little project and not be beholden to the community to like hit deadlines and just, you know what I mean? I wanted to take our time. So I was kind of glad we didn't get funded. But since we didn't get funded, I don't think I'm in a position to be giving anybody any advice. um, Governance is a secret sauce. Yep, I agree. No, I don't think I wouldn't frame it like that. I would say I think it's a fantastic ecosystem. It's definitely my favorite, but I don't think anybody can really lay claim to being the perfect ecosystem. I think that's probably the wrong way. I would say I would not frame it that way. Dude, thank you for jumping on, all of you Eastern Standard Time or any other time zone around the world. Thank you for jumping on. I know it's pretty late for a lot of you, which is why we did it on a Friday night as opposed to a Thursday. So I really appreciate you guys jumping on. Um, Lauren says it's about 4 p.m. for me. Cool. Yeah, no, I figured it'd kind of be for people on both sides of the Atlantic and the Pacific. I was hoping this would be like a decent time. So glad to hear it. I do not know the answer to this question. Um, is that project credible? I have no idea. No idea. I think it can be pegged to anything. I don't know if Coty has come out and said exactly what they're doing, if there's a definitive statement on what's going to be pegged to. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But I mean, I think Jet is sort of built to be pegged to anything. How do you temper your bias for Cardano? Do you ever have doubts about a project or something you will never speak ill of? No, no, I'll speak ill of it if I mean if Charles gets into a car accident and suffers heavy brain trauma and starts making bad decisions, I'll be the first one to say this is messed up. But how do I temper my bias for Cardano? I made a bet. I started making a bet on Cardano in Q1 2018. So I'm like all in, man. I don't try to temper my bias. I looked around. I decided in 2017, the market, everything was too high, and I knew it because I'd already lived through a couple of crypto bubbles, a couple of crypto peaks. I knew the market was too high and I wasn't going to buy until after it subsided. So I started, excuse me, I started kind of looking around at all the projects that I thought would be contenders for leading the Gen 3 space. Who would have the best proof of stake system with good smart contracts? Who would lead that space? I looked around and I consumed like a gigantic amount of information about everything, the smart contract programming languages, the programming languages used for the protocol, how the protocol worked, you know, the leadership teams, the community building, their style of community building, the magnitude of the community, every possible metric. And I decided to make my bet on Cardano, and I haven't really tempered my bias for Cardano since then. Okay. Sorry guys, my throat's a little A little scratchy tonight. Let's see what else. Hey, have any of you guys ever any of you guys ever had this? This is called Hatozaki whiskey. Has anybody ever had that before? What's your favorite project on Cardano? The project with the mission that gets me the most excited is probably World Mobile. When I hear World Mobile talk about what they're trying to do, that's probably what gets me the most excited. What do you say to Bitcoin maxis that say Bitcoin pushes for better, efficient, renewable energy? I think it's kind of I don't want to call it a fallacy, but it's like we've got all these different forms of energy production today. And I mean, it's kind of like there's not really such a thing as energy production, right? We've got sort of the conservation of energy thing. It's just we're just turning other things into forms of energy we can use. We've already got solar and wind and hydroelectric and nuclear. We've got all these different ways we create energy, and we can use any of them for a bunch of different things. If you create a geothermal plant and you use it for Bitcoin, you can say, hey, we're 100% renewable, but you could have also used that electricity to light houses so that you didn't have to use coal-fired power plants to light those houses. So I'm not really sure if that's a legit argument. Like, I think it's great if I know they try to argue that Bitcoin is going to cause more development of renewable energy sources. I just think we should develop the renewable energy regardless, and then use blockchains that don't use that much energy, right? I mean, no matter what you do, Bitcoin is going to use a huge amount of energy. And the proof of work thing, Charles has made really eloquent arguments about this, but the proof of work thing, it's just how we pick who validates the block. Proof of work and proof of stake are exactly the same, except how you pick who validates the block. And you don't really need to do this find the nonce for SHA-256 thing. It's what Satoshi did, but we don't really need to do it anymore. So I'm like, we've got so much renewable energy and we've got so much non-renewable energy. Why don't we use as much of that? Why don't we use as little of that whole energy pie chart for crypto as possible? Okay. Yeah, I don't know how long I spent investigating, but it took me a long time too. I definitely looked really closely. Like I was an Ethereum holder. I think I want to say I bought Ethereum at like 72 cents originally. Um, yeah, I was a big fan of Ethereum back in the day, but as soon as I learned about Cardano, I just felt like it was better. So uh okay, mine Bitcoin with nuclear energy. Yeah, I won't comment on the nuclear energy thing because it's a little bit polarizing, but I definitely have thoughts about that. Yeah. People think all crypto is like Bitcoin and uses way too much energy because they only know about Bitcoin. That's definitely the case. Would you disclose if you invest into any projects on Cardano? Yeah, no, if I was like if I was showing a project to you guys, I would tell you if I owned the project. I don't think we've ever talked about any project that I'm invested in ADA, right? I'm invested in Cardano. Feel free to assume. I mean, I put a disclaimer at the start of the videos that I may have an interest in any asset we talk about. So feel free to assume that I may have an investment in any asset, but I actually don't have. I'm trying to think if I have any. I don't think I have any investments in any projects that we've like ever even mentioned on this channel. I'm trying to think. It may be that I somehow coincidentally ended up with some small amount of some project, but I can't actually think of any. So yeah, if I'm ever talking about some project, I've definitely had a lot of offers. A lot of people have hit me up and told me, hey, we'll compensate you if it happened today. In fact, somebody hit me up and asked if I do sort of compensated promotion of projects, and I told them no. So I get hit up all the time. People are like, basically like, we'll give you some tokens in our project. I assume it's going to be tokens in their project if you'll promote our project in your channel, and I've never done that. So, and I've had many offers to do that. Yeah, every time you say Ethereum uppercutting itself, it makes, yep. I laugh too. Every time I see a headline, I'm just like, once again, these guys are like standing by themselves in the middle of the ring, just uppercutting themselves as hard as they can. Okay. You bought ETH for the same as I started buying Cardano. I sold the ETH pretty early though. It got to a point where it had like over 10x, and I sold the Ethereum because I was like, I've already got 10x on this Ethereum. I'm just going to sell it, and I didn't know that it was going to 1400x right after I sold it. So there were a lot of us. I mean, Ethereum, it was not hard to pick up Ethereum really in that price range because there was a ton of heat around it. The people who bought it in the ICO bought it even cheaper. I think they got it like around 50 cents or something. But it was pretty easy to pick it up in the price range I did right after the ICO. So there were a ton of us who bought it, but you know, like with everything in crypto, it's really easy to sell too soon, too late, all that kind of stuff. I'm playing Quake on the side and talking about crypto with these guys. That's funny. Okay, last questions, guys, and then we'll get out of here. We've gone for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Darko Caro says, still waiting for top alts to become household names. When asked about Ethereum and Cardano, most people think ETH is some kind of synthetic drug and Cardano a brand of Italian cheese. I think I saw somebody comment this on, maybe it was you in one of the previous videos, or maybe it was on Twitter, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation right there. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for jumping on, guys. I really appreciate it. I know people have a million things they want to do on Friday nights. So I really appreciate you all jumping on. And I hope you, whether it's Friday night for you, super early on Saturday or much later on Saturday, I hope you guys all have a great weekend. And I hope your journey in Cardano is as fulfilling as it can possibly be. So I will talk to you guys next time.